It's that time of year again where players are reporting to spring training and us fans are overreacting to each and everything that we see. George Springer said he's healthy and he's comfortable with moving to right field, as well as Donnie Baseball. We got a Donnie Baseball sighting at the spring training facility, working with Vladimir Guerrero Jr. one-on-one. So we'll have that and much more in this episode of Jay's Digest. What's up, Jays fans? I'm your host, Peter Vryonis, alongside host Nick Gosse. Now, it's an exciting time to be a Blue Jays fan. There's no games going on yet. There's no moves being made, but players are in Dunedin. They are working out with the team, and I could not be more excited seeing all the players in great shape, being locked in for the season, seeing some new faces, seeing some familiar faces, and it's been great to see all that on Twitter circulating around.
Yeah, there's lots of footage, and obviously we didn't have any for a while there, a few months, and now it's great to get that going. But make sure to hit the subscribe button. We're on the road to 7K. Your support has been great, and let's get right into the first topic, which is a George Springer health update, which is actually pretty important. And there was he basically got interviewed, and he went on to speak about his health and how he's feeling towards the upcoming season. And this is what he had to say. So I learned really fast that it's really hard to play baseball with a bad arm. And George Springer looks forward to a healthy year with the Blue Jays after the grind of a 2022 season with the bone spur in his elbow. A couple more screenshot. He said it feels good to feel good. And then finally, I'm in a good spot, and I'm very, very happy. George said there were no issues with the October surgery to remove a bone spur in his elbow. Began baseball activities after the first of the year. I feel great, and I'm excited about it. So what are your thoughts on that? And I don't know. It's pretty exciting to see.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if George Springer finishes top 10 in MVP voting this season if he's healthy and he plays 140 plus games. I can see that happening, and I know what it's like to play baseball with a bad arm. I've been a third baseman my whole life. My last year, I couldn't even lift my shoulder. I couldn't play anywhere else but first base, and it really limits you as a player because you don't have the same impact that you want to have on a team. So I feel George Springer. I feel where he's coming from. He's a competitor. He's always going all out, and he gives everything that he has to the team. And he's a leader. He's the leader of the team. He's the heart and soul of the team. And when he's on the field, the Jays are just a better team, plain and simple.
Yeah, and there was another screenshot that I wasn't able to get, but basically John Snyder said that in an ideal situation last year, he would have gotten that surgery halfway through the year so that he could have been fully healthy towards the playoffs, but he also applauded George Springer for wanting to play through it, and even when he was injured, he still put up a very good year. And I'll pop up this one last time. This is what I'm pretty excited about. He said there are no issues with the October surgery, so he should be fully healthy now, and hopefully. And the biggest thing is that he doesn't have any lingering injuries throughout the year, because that's what kept happening last year. He kept, he would run in, or he had a swing, he'd fall down, he'd look hurt, or he'd run into the wall. So I'm excited to see what he has to bring next season. And I'm also excited to move into the next topic, because we're talking about Donnie Baseball. We had a Don Mattingly sighting with Vladimir Guerrero Jr., and you touched on it in the intro. I'm excited, and I'm excited to see him work with Vladimir Guerrero Jr. And this is the screenshot we had here. Bench coach Don Mattingly and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. If you want to go look at the full video, you can go to Hazel May's Twitter. She's posting tons of stuff there, but basically, it looked like he was just giving him advice. Vladdy was taking infield, taking ground balls, working on his positioning at first base. And I don't know. I think, like we've discussed several times on this on the show, that Don Mattingly's impact is going to be, it might not be, seen right away, but it's going to have a long-term impact.
Yeah, absolutely. And first base it's an easy position to play. It's probably the easiest position in the infield. Like, let's call it what it is. But it doesn't hurt to pick the brain of a multiple-time Gold Glove winner in Don Mattingly, a guy who, is just knows the way around the MLB, and he was a great player in his own right as well. Former MVP, if I'm not mistaken. So, he knew how to put the bat on the ball. He was as good as anyone at first base, fielding wise, and just having that type of experience is just invaluable, especially for John Schneider as well, who's entering his first full season as the manager of the Blue Jays. Having Don Mattingly to pick his brain alongside him, it's just it's great for Vladdy, and he's always open to getting better as a player. Already so talented. He could easily say, "Oh, it's first base. It doesn't really matter as much," but he wants to get better, and he wants to be the best player that he can possibly be. And I applaud him for that, and I applaud Donnie Baseball for showing up early and making an impact on the team.
Yeah, and even like you just said, Vladdy obviously transitioned from third base to first base and has already turned into a Gold Glove first baseman. So I don't know, the sky's the limit for him, and I'm also excited to see what Don Mattingly has to help with Bo Bichette this offseason. I'm sure we'll see some footage as spring training progresses, helping him at shortstop. I don't know. I'm excited to see, but let us know your thoughts on Don Mattingly. You know, we've spoken very highly of him here, but let's move on to Yusei Kikuchi now. We have a lot of topics today, and it's all good stuff. So Yusei Kikuchi, potential breakout season. Now, we obviously discussed the bearded Kikuchi thing in yesterday's video, but this has a bit more substance to it. Ben Wagner on the Drive Time said, doing a sit down with Kikuchi tomorrow because I noticed some new things with him when it comes to hand placement during the windup. And he was also throwing a new pitch today that we haven't seen before. That was a couple days ago. And there was also this, which was yesterday. So Chai Davidi describes the shape of Kikuchi's new pitch as a curveball on Tim and Friends earlier today. I wonder if he's been tinkering with his slider over the offseason. And this is great to hear. If Kikuchi can, maybe add another pitch or also, work in his control with the fastball, because he has one of the best fastballs on the team, especially being a lefty, then he could have a breakout season. And honestly, if he has a 4 ERA as our fifth starter, I'd be very happy.
Yeah, so it's all about putting it together for Yusei Kikuchi. The stuff is there. That's never been the problem. It's always been about location and not leaking pitches over the middle of the plate. So he often walks guys at a ridiculous clip, and when he does finally find the strike zone, it's in a hitter-friendly count, and it's in a great location to do some damage if you're a hitter. So he's got to figure out. I'm glad that he's there early. I'm glad that he's there working with Danny Jansen, with Alejandro Kirk as well. And I think he will figure it out if he can find some sort of form that he had in that first half of his All-Star campaign with Seattle. Then the Blue Jays are going to be very happy with Yusei Kikuchi's turnaround. And I noticed it in his bullpens that he was holding his hands a little bit higher, like towards his chest level, and maybe that could impact him finding his old form as well.
Yeah, and the big thing with him is finding the control and maybe changing his form a little bit will do that. Obviously, we've seen it with some other pitchers in the past. Pete Walker's worked. Robbie Ray changed his up a little bit. He had a breakout year, and Kikuchi seems to be penciled in as the number 5 starter. So, we haven't seen much about Mitch White. Obviously, he's still on the team, and he's still hopefully he's going to have some sort of an impact. But ideally, if Kikuchi takes over the 5th spot, then we won't really need to. Mitch White can maybe move to like a bullpen role or emergency 6th starter.
Yeah, well, the thing is, like, you only need 4 starters once you get to the playoffs, and the Blue Jays' top four is as good as any top four that I can mention off the top of my head in the league. So, uh, you won't have to deal with Yusei Kikuchi potentially blowing up in the playoffs if you once you do get there, if you get there, of course. But you need a fifth starter to get you through the season, and it's not sustainable having a bullpen day every fifth day. So if Yusei Kikuchi can provide the Blue Jays 100 plus innings in that fifth starter spot, maybe go 4 innings every start, or maybe even go 5 on occasion, and then hand it over to the bullpen, which is much improved as well, then the team is in a much better spot. You don't want to have to rely on Kikuchi to get your pitching staff over the hump, but you do need a fifth starter, and of all the internal options, I think he's the best one.
Yeah, I agree. And let us know what your thoughts are on him. And we'll move on to the last topic, which you mentioned. Mentioned Danny Jansen's name, and he's looking very good according to people at the spring training site in Dunedin. A couple screenshots for you before we wrap up the video. This is the first one here, which is it's early and it's batting practice, but Danny Jansen is hitting the ball as hard as I've seen. Here he is stepping into for one last pitch. It went very far. Obviously, again, Twitter, Keegan Matheson, if you want to see, he's posting tons of stuff if you want to see the actual bomb. He was hitting the ball extremely hard. And then Thomas Hall, just kind of some, context saying he posted career highs in home runs, RBIs, average slugging last year, obviously in limited sample size. But went on to say the Blue Jays offense will be even more potent in 23 if Jansen stays healthy, which is very, very true. Obviously, they stuck with Jansen. One of the catchers had to be traded, and they ultimately kept Jansen and Kirk, and I think it's going to turn out to be a good idea. And I could see Danny Jansen having a phenomenal year this year, assuming he stays healthy.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's the big key. But I think the Jays made the right decision by trading Gabriel Moreno. I think he's going to be a great player. He might even turn out to be better than Dalton Varsho. And if I'm being honest, I don't have a problem with that because you know what you're getting out of Varsho, but you don't necessarily know what kind of impact that Gabriel Moreno were to have. Whereas the catching duo that you have right now, Danny Jansen and Alejandro Kirk, it was one of the best last year in baseball. Uh, Offensive wise, defensive wise, they were just a dynamic duo. And why would you want to break that up if you're the Blue Jays? They're both still pretty young. They both have term that you could still keep them for. Danny Jansen, 2 years, I believe, and Kirk, I think another five or
Yeah, a
four or
lot.
5 years. So you have your duo set for the next couple years, and there was just a logjam there. So you deal from a position of strength, and you're handing over the reins to these two experienced guys that are just going to take your team to a different stratosphere, and we know what they can do. The catcher position is not a question mark. It's the rest of the team and how they're going to perform.
Yeah, and we have Brandon Belt as well, who obviously we touched on a lot, who's going to help, take some of those DH spots up, giving some rest to Kirk and Jansen. So I'm excited to see with the rest how it goes. One final screenshot here, just a quick one. I see some absolutely heartwarming spring training videos going around, so I'm back. Let's go Jays. This is the year, and that's kind of the sentiment on Blue Jays Twitter, is that everyone's excited to see tons of new players in the team, Belt, Vershow, everyone. It's exciting to see, so we're excited to cover it all for you. That'll wrap up this video. We'll have another video tomorrow. I'm super sick, so I've been bearing with the upload recently, but we'll see you guys in tomorrow's video for some good, I'm assuming some more spring training content because there's tons going out.
Thanks.